Thanks for joining us for today's Innovate Queensland webinar, Social Media for Businesses to Meet the COVID-19 Challenge. My name is Emily Cullen and I'm from Impact Innovation, and we deliver the Innovate Queensland program, which supports the Queensland Government's Advanced Queensland Initiative. Today as our presenter, I have Dr. Karen Sutherland, an award-winning social media coach and educator from the University of the Sunshine Coast. And during this webinar, we'll discuss how social media is surging and changing the way businesses communicate, recommend ways to cut through social media noise, and suggest 3 approaches that could help you respond or pivot in the current COVID-19 climate. So just while we're waiting for people to connect to the webinar, I'll go through some of the tools we'll be using to interact and ask questions for those who haven't viewed a webinar using Zoom. So your screen should look like this, with a view of the audience and a slide in the center and a control panel at the bottom of the screen. You can adjust your view by selecting the speaker view at the top of the screen and flick between either speaker or gallery view. Next slide, thanks. And during this webinar, we might also ask you questions or ask you to answer a poll so we can better understand your experience with the topic. We can ask you to raise your hand just by clicking on the little hand icon at the bottom of the screen. Otherwise, when we ask you a poll will actually pop up on the screen and you'll be able to choose an answer and then just click the submit button to answer that question. To ensure the webinar can flow smoothly and we stick to the time allocated, we shall be answering all questions posted in the Q&A section towards the end of today's session. But we do encourage you to ask questions as and when they occur to you, and just click the Q&A button in the toolbar at the bottom of the Zoom window and type your question, then hit send in that Q&A thing to send them through to us. Now, if you'd like to send any comments to those listening or have any feedback for today's session, you can use the chat function to post that feedback or those comments, and we do encourage that to come through because it's always nice to hear when we're doing a good job. Just on the next slide, you'll see how to adjust your audio settings, and there's also an option to download the webinar activity pack. I'm just posting the handout in the chat now for everybody that's joining us. And that activity pack has any links that we might mention throughout today's webinar, as well as some contact details for Dr. Karen Sutherland as well. Now, in a moment, I'm going to hand over to Dr. Karen Sutherland. Just on the next slide, you'll see her little bio there. Yes, thank you. Dr. Karen Sutherland is a social media and public relations educator, researcher, and consultant with more than 20 years industry experience in marketing, public relations, and communication roles for organisations such as the ABC TV, Fremantle Media, and the Australian Red Cross Blood Service. She's also the program coordinator at the University of Sunshine Coast, and is dedicated to demystifying technology for local businesses, community and non-profits who seek social media support, and regularly delivers social media workshops and coaching sessions to clients from a range of industries. So I'll hand over to you now, Dr. Sutherland, to kick off the webinar. Thank you.
Thanks and welcome everyone. I was really delighted to be asked to do this today because I know that this topic is on every business owner and non-profit mind at the moment, all around how to use social media during this interesting time. It's interesting and it can be extremely challenging. I mean, who would have thought this was going to happen? So hopefully by the end of this workshop, I will have shared some information around things like different approaches. There was 3 different approaches and just some responses to common questions I often get asked. So one of the key things I'm asked is, how can I create content on social media that actually cuts through all of the noise? So I've provided here some suggestions on how to do that. So let's kick off with the first approach, which we're talking about adaptation, like how to adapt in this time. And as I was telling Emily, you know, I delivered a presentation like this, similar to this, probably about a month ago, and where adapt was really the key focus because things were just new, and businesses just needed to know how to respond. And while it's been a few, it's been probably 6 weeks. Time just seems to fly by now. I think many businesses have sort of finished that adapt part of it. They've already had to respond out of absolute necessity to continue and to stay alive. And so I will focus on that a bit, but it's really going to be more around this engagement, how to really ramp up your social media efforts just to keep that customer relationship going with your business, so that you are ready for, when things ease up and we experience that, whatever that new type of normal is going to be. And so we'll talk about engagement, and I will show you some examples of some great content that's been produced during this time that's really helped to really build those relationships and help customers online using social media throughout this time. And then talking about preparation, because yes, we don't really know what is going to happen, but just talking about what's so important to just have some sort of communication plan in place for when things, restrictions ease, whatever that may be. So Emily, I thought first, we have a poll. So I just was interested just to see how many businesses out there have had to adapt in some way to try and, I guess, continue.
Yeah, we've got some results coming through, thanks.
Right.
And just wanted to note, the polls are anonymous, so don't feel like you can't.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know. But it's just interesting just to see, because every business is different. Every business has had a different sort of way of delivering their services and products, and everyone's customer base is different. So it's really interesting just to see what has happened during the current world events within your businesses.
Yep, so we're at 85%, so I might just end that poll now and we can share the results so everybody can see.
Yeah, great, thank you. So that's just good to see that, you've had to adapt. And so that first stage where we're discussing adapt, you're already all over that. So, and I can see in the comments too, some people have had to actually close entirely. So, which is very unfortunate with what's going on. And so ways to adapt during this time is really, it's really understanding what your customers need. It's a basic fundamental thing with businesses. So working out, what problems your customers now have in light of everything that's going on, and then trying to adjust your business in a way that you can help them to overcome the challenges as well. So sort of a no-brainer here. So thinking about, how easy is it to purchase online or over the phone, and making that process really convenient. There's been a lot of businesses now who are doing click and collect or delivery and things like that. They've had to shift their businesses to meet that demand. Things have eased somewhat, particularly in Queensland now, where people can go out a lot more. And it's not only about essential shopping anymore, but there's still, I think, a lot of people who are still very wary about, going out as much to do their shopping. So just working out about, again, how you can really respond to that in a way of, helping your customers. But it's also knowing about how really asking your customers and being direct. And that's why social media is so great with that, because it's all about that two-way functionality and asking your customers what they need rather than sort of guessing and then trying to respond in that way. So I'm just looking at the chat as well. So I'm not going to spend too much time on adapt, but let's talk about engage. So this is essential, and it's essential generally with social media activity. So it's about trying to ramp up those activities to help and entertain your customers when they're stuck at home. So although we can go out a bit more, but the best businesses who have been doing this have been, they're not there trying to sell. What they're doing is they're creating content that is helpful that helps people get through certain things. So we've had, I've got examples on the next slide, but you know, a lot of fitness businesses are now delivering online workouts. We've had restaurants giving recipes, you know, things that are related to the business, but people can actually use in their own homes, and it helps them. And we've had people just doing really entertaining things. And we were talking before, as we were getting ready for this webinar, just talking about the whole, you know, the we're all in this together email. Like, so I don't know how many I got received of those. I was on a mailing list I didn't even realize I was on, and I haven't heard from some of these businesses for years, and then I got an email telling me, you know, we're all in this together. And I just think it just doesn't help. It's not very helpful. It doesn't really make people feel that way. What they want is like real action in terms of, you know, real tangible things they can do in their home, or tips or tricks to help them to get through with what's going on. So there was a study, Edelman is a big, they were a PR firm, but now they're like a big digital firm. They're worldwide and very well known. And they normally do a couple of times a year, what they call as a trust barometer, where they survey a lot of people just to find out, you know, how they feel, what big organisations they trust now, and they put them in categories. They did one recently to find out what people are feeling in relation to how businesses and organisations were responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. And they surveyed 12,000 people, so it was a decent sized sample by research stakes. But they found that 84% of respondents, as you see there, they want brand advertising to focus on how the products can help. So they don't want just buy me. It's all around sort of using, it's almost like a product demonstration without the hard sell. So trying to use your products in sort of video content, which really works very well on social media, that can, rather than just selling it, but just showing it in a way that's actually helpful. And that's how people are actually responding best to the content that's being shared. So examples of helpful social media content. And I've got some videos as well to show you some other examples too that are really quite fun. So as I said before, so recipes from a restaurant, you know, even there are some bars that are sharing some of their cocktail recipes and actually showing people how to do it on a video, and that's going viral. And it's, people have asked me, you know, if I share that stuff, is it going to stop people purchasing from me? And I disagree with that. Absolutely not. It's actually going to help people. You'll build that relationship even more with your customers, because you're actually trying to help them through a difficult time. So when we're not talking about giving all your services for free or anything like that, it's more about giving sort of generalized advice, or giving a customer a really great experience that they can have in their home that actually connects them with your business. So think about it in those terms. Home workouts from a gym. So for example, this has happened a lot, but in Coolum, I live in Coolum Beach, and there's a CrossFit gym there that started to move all the workouts online, and allowed people to borrow their equipment almost like a library. It was all highly sanitized, of course, and they would run workouts via Zoom. They would also have one workout a day they broadcast live on their Facebook that was free to anybody. And that has actually helped bring more business in, because they're willing to do, you know, give something away in that sort of respect. And beauty therapists, they've been doing sort of home beauty treatments. I saw a story not long ago about a hairdresser that was creating little at-home grey touch-up kits, like some of us are experiencing right now. And what she did, she would leave it on the doorstep and then FaceTime the customer and give them instructions on what to do. And there was also written instructions in there in the pack as well. So just, you know, thinking about what your clients or customers need, and then responding in a way that's really helpful. but it's got to be relevant and appropriate. So another way to get people engaged with your social media is also doing other forms like competitions. So getting people to share, like there's been some great groups crop up that you could not steal their ideas by any means, but just look at the way that they're getting people engaged. So there's one where people, when they take the bin out every week, they dress up in something new, and getting people to do something like that. There's another one where people are showing, it's from my window or something from home. I forget the actual name of it, but people are sharing their experiences being in lockdown. So even thinking up ways that you can get people involved by sharing what they're, what they're doing. A good thing to do is, if you don't have, if it's appropriate, of course, to the platforms that you're using. So having a Facebook group from your page can be great in trying to encourage your sort of regular customers to come in there, and then, creating experiences for them in there as well. And I only say that because Facebook is now giving much more priority to the content that's being shared within groups, more so than businesses. So it's just because they want businesses to spend money to get that greater reach. And so within groups, Facebook's trying to build their sort of community and have a stronger focus on communities. And so they're giving much more reach to this content in groups. So, trying to get people in there to share their own experiences is a really good thing to do. And, just provide them with something to take their mind off what's going on, being a really welcome and fun distraction, because, it's quite serious what's going on. And so I think some people, they are going to their social media for a bit of relief. And there's a lot of disinformation on there as well being shared, and a lot of fear being caused because of that. And so it's a real opportunity to try and, sort of shift that and be a bit more sort of positive and fun if you can. And as I say here, customers will be grateful that you've tried to make their time at home easier. So now I've got 3 of my favourites, but we actually discussed one before this. What is it called? Nat's What I Reckon. If you haven't seen him on Facebook, I recommend you do. I give you a strong language warning about Nats, but he does these amazing cooking segments that are just, really just fun. And apparently he's just using his iPad to film it, but it looks, like, it's a really great short snippet type of content that really helps and gives people some new skills in terms of cooking. But I'll stop sharing my screen now and show you some examples of some just helpful and fun content that's been created in response to what's going on. The first one is from the New Zealand Police. I'm not sure if you've seen this, but this was all about teaching people about social distancing. And it was done in a way that is so much better than what, what our sort of communication has been around here. It was fun and explained why, and people wanted to watch to the end. And it's only, I think, about 2 minutes, but it's just hilarious, and people will remember, what the actual key messages were, but it entertains them as well. So let's have a look. Here we go.
Thanks, Karen. We're just waiting for the video to load, everyone.
Yeah, it's coming. Can you see?
Yes, it's up. Thanks.
You're all staying in your bubbles. But when you do need to go...
Let me start it from the beginning. Here we go.
Kia ora Aotearoa. I hope you're all staying in your bubbles. But when you do need to go out for a walk or to get supplies, it's really important that you stay 2 metres away from other people to reduce the chance of transmission. So, this is OLearys' guide to staying 2 metres away from other people. So this is 2 metres. It's longer than you think. Imagine 2 shopping trolleys, a 3-seater couch, an all-black lock, or maybe a dolphin. Thanks, Officer Phil. So here are some ways to make sure other people stay 2 metres away. This is a really big queue. It's over 2 metres, so you can just push it out to make sure people stay the required distance. Off you go, mate. 2 metres. You could try eating 4 cloves of garlic. That should certainly keep people 2 metres away. Hey, Officer Phil, how's it hanging? Or you could be one of those slightly annoying people that has really loud conversations while their phone's on speaker. Hey Minogue, how's the weather?
Yeah, it's really mild. How's the weather with you?
Yeah, I'm in the same city, it's mild here too.
Oh, what city are you in?
Wellington?
Ah, yeah. Yep, that's right.
Or if you just start playing the guitar, you'll find people often tend to back away. 2 metres please, at 2 metres please. I don't want your COVID if you start to sneeze. At 2 metres please, at 2 metres please. I don't want to breathe your COVID if you start to wheeze. Corona's spreading around the world, so people do your bit. Keep a gap around yourselves or you'll feel like rubbish. Yucky little virus is really quite bad luck. So everyone obey the rules or we'll end up in trouble. At 2 metres please, at 2 metres please. I don't want your COVID if you start to sneeze. At 2 metres please, at 2 metres please. I don't want to breathe your COVID if you start to wheeze. Look, when you do go out, you are going to encounter other people. So be friendly, smile, but just make sure you keep that 2 metre distance.
Have you got a new partner ready?
What? No, that's Officer Phil. He's a dummy.
Can't call him a dummy, it's not very kind. Jacinda wouldn't like that.
No, I don't mean that. I mean he's a personican.
Right. I like that song. 2 metres please, 2 metres please. Something, 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 something.
So it's if I don't want you COVID, if you start to sneeze. Start again.
I was in the first bit.
Okay.
2 metres please, 2 metres please.
I don't want you COVID.
So that was just an example of, really sort of fun content. So the other example I wanted to show you was this is actually, sorry, I'll just get that up on the screen. This is a lady called Robin Firmeister, and she runs a charity in St George called Care Belong. And so what I wanted to show you, look, the production values of this example are not
something really special on Sunday. We have
are not like amazing. So this is just an example of, while you may not have a lot of equipment, and the thing is, it doesn't have to be a Hollywood production. This actually went pretty well. Like this is one of 3 that she did. The first one went the best, but the actual quality in terms of the shot was not that great, but it actually performed the best out of those. But in it, like, she's just showing people how to make brownies for Mother's Day. It's just a really simple thing. It's one shot, and she just does it using really inexpensive ingredients and things like that. It could be improved if she wore like a lapel mic and the lighting was better and things like that, of course, but just getting stuff out there. The thing about this video, I'll only show you a little bit because it's lunchtime and we'll all want to eat brownies if I show you the whole thing. But what I want to show you is that really, like, it can just be simple. And what people are really looking for is a familiar face. So if you're really the face of your business, if people come, you deal with people when they come in, if you have a bricks and mortar store, or you're the person dealing with them online, it just helps to build that connection and that relationship with them if you put yourself out there in that particular way and provide something that's of use to them and something valuable. So I'll play a little bit of this.
Mother's Day. Good morning everyone. Today's all about Cooking with Rob again. Today we're doing something really special. On Sunday we have Mother's Day. So how about we learn to make some vanilla bean white chocolate fudge. So at the moment I've actually got 2 packets of the white chocolate here and mixed up in the bowl, 2 of those, and I've actually got 60 grams of butter. It doesn't matter whether it's salted or unsalted butter, and a tin of condensed milk. The good old tin of condensed milk. So we've got one of those in there. We put that in. At home I would normally do it on a saucepan on the stove and stand there and watch it. Do not leave it. Stand there and make sure that you're stirring it all the time. So put all that together, and today I've actually melted it in the microwave. So in this bowl I have the 2 bags of the chocolate, I actually have the condensed milk and the butter.
So I won't play the whole thing, but I just wanted to give you an example of the type of content that you can actually do. So if there's some sort of way that someone could use a product or something related to your business that you can show and teach people or provide them with some information that's going to actually help them through that time, that would be, people really respond well to that. And you don't have to post all the time, but just doing, a piece of information, a piece of content every, it depends on what you can manage as well. But creating a piece of content that is helpful will go much better than just sort of trying to sell all the time on social media. The other example, the final example I want to show you was, here we go. So this was more of a fun example showing what people can do in lockdown. So, and again, we're not expecting that, but this is just to give you ideas of different content that's being shared. This is another New Zealand example, but it went really well.
This one goes out to anyone who's on coronavirus lockdown with their immediate family. This is the family lockdown boogie. We're stuck here in the house for the next 4 weeks or so, and we won't be going out because the government said no. Just my mother and my father and my sister and me and little Maisie too. So for the family sanity, can't you see what we must do? Hey Graham,
yeah,
do you wanna move?
I wanna move.
Hey Joe,
Yo,
can you feel the groove?
I feel the groove, yeah.
Hey Lonnie,
What's up?
do you wanna take a chance?
Oh, yeah.
The family's together, so let's just dance. Lock the door, hit the floor. It's the family lockdown boogie. Incarcerated, blood related. Family lockdown boogie. Dancing queen in quarantine. Family lockdown boogie. We can't go out, so we're all about family lockdown boogie. What a treat it is to be locked down with these three, because we can't get on each other's nerves if we're dancing constantly. We're staying strong and getting along, cause that's just how we do. Won't let this virus divide us, so try this with your family too. The streets are empty and the doors are locked. We've got time plenty and the fridge is stocked. We're a nuclear family and we know how to rock. So lock it down and turn it up right now, you don't need to stop. Lock the door, hit the floor. It's the family lockdown boogie. Incarcerated, blood related. Family lockdown boogie. Dancing queen in quarantine. Family lockdown boogie. We can't go out, so we're all about family lockdown boogie. Now wash your hands, do not touch your face. Cough into your arm, keep 2 meters of space. Stay inside your bubble, don't forget to smile. And for the next 4 weeks, do a family lockdown freestyle. Incarcerated, blood related. Family lockdown boogie. Dancing queen in quarantine. Family lockdown boogie. We can't go out, so we're all about family lockdown. Lock the door, hit the floor. It's the family lockdown boogie. Incarcerated, blood related. Family lockdown boogie. Dancing queen in quarantine. Family lockdown boogie. We can't go out, so we're all about family lockdown boogie.
Looks like we actually had some other people dancing online to that one as well, Karen.
Good. Well, they're just examples anyway of different types of sort of fun and helpful and uplifting sort of content that people can do in their homes. Like,
Oh my goodness, we have company.
hang on 1 sec. I don't think I am. We just went through to the Golden Girls, but I think you know, it's just different ways of looking at what's going on and I guess responding. So not always being really serious, but just trying to find angles that can actually help to entertain or you know, help your audience that your audience is going to find valuable. So the third approach and response is really, and I think we need to, if you haven't done so already, it's really starting to think about this now, about preparing. So we don't know clearly how things are going to change, but they have been changing pretty regularly in terms of, first of all, the lockdowns that happened and the changes in to businesses, and then now the staged restriction easing seems to be it's on the cards and coming, and you can tell the Prime Minister is doing regular media conferences around what's going on. And while it's really difficult to know what is going to happen and what they're going to say is okay, because there's been broad statements made, but there's no real detail yet about what it actually means. And this stuff can change. Like, if you remember one of the first media conferences where the Prime Minister said, you know, you can go to the hairdresser, but only for 30 minutes. And I'm like, well, what can we actually do in 30 minutes? There's nothing you can do except for maybe shave your head. And I think that could take even longer. So, and then the next day there was a flip and then that changed. So things are changing very rapidly and it's hard to prepare, but I guess just having a really good sense around what, you know, what you're going to do and how you're going to respond if you're given the green light for your business, that you can go and start trading again in the way that you were. Thinking about mainly the communication strategy. How are you going to communicate with your customers and in what way? What social channels are you going to use? What are you going to say? What do they need to know? What don't they need to know? Because often businesses feel like they have to tell people everything and it's too much information. So it's really thinking about what are the key messages? What are the 3 key things people need to know? And then crafting your communication around that. We had another poll on this. Emily, if you want to put that up, we just wanted to ask, have you started thinking about, you know, your preparation for when restrictions ease in terms of your communication? So we've got, yes, I've already mapped it out. I've thought about it, but nothing written down. I'm not prepared. I'm unsure. And of course, like it's really hard to know. So it's interesting watching all those lines going. Okay. So, you know, you have given it some thought, most of you, and then some of you are already all over it, which is really good. And I can completely understand those who haven't, because you just don't know which way it's going to go. So really, yeah, it's just starting to think about that. If communication isn't your key area, it might be worth sort of looking and doing some research around how other businesses are doing that and how they're preparing for their relaunch when things change. But it's really good to start sort of at least thinking about that. So you want to be, because when the government finally says it, you want to be really nimble and able to just get out there straight away, particularly with your communication. So I'm going to move on now to talking about cutting through the social media noise, which I'm often asked about. You know, how do you do that? There is so much going on. And so while I'm saying, you know, create great, you know, helpful content, you're going to be competing with lots of other businesses as well, and organizations and groups and friends and all that sort of stuff. So it's really about the key to any communication is really, really understanding your audience and who you're trying to speak to. So, and it's working out who your customers are and then thinking about, you know, there'll be a whole range, there'll be different segments in your customer base, and it's not trying to speak to all of them all of the time, because often when you try and speak to everybody, you won't speak to anybody. So it's really around understanding different segments in your audience and crafting your communication to suit each of those different audiences. So It's also around writing things that work on each platform. So one of the biggest mistakes I see people make is they post on Instagram and then just push it through to Facebook. And often, like, it's acceptable to use numerous hashtags on Instagram. It doesn't work so well on Facebook. People are tagged often in the captions of Instagram posts. When they're pushed through to Facebook, they don't work. So if you're going to do things like that, it's about going back in and just amending each post so that it suits each platform. And it's understanding that there's different content lengths that work better on different platforms as well. So really understanding that. So it's understanding your audience and understanding the platform, so you reach the people that you're trying to reach and connect with. It's also important to, of course, to use a visual element, because people will notice that it needs to leap out from the news feed. There's an academic, he's called Keith Quisenberry from the States, and he has this idea about what he calls on social media the attention economy. And really, like, it's about jumping out and grabbing that person's attention, because that's the most valuable thing. Yes, you want them to be your customer, but first they have to want to give you their attention, and before you even get to any of that. And so that's the thing you need to really focus on. So using a video or using a really great graphic or image that is bold in color, that jumps out when people are scrolling through, because you've got to imagine, I don't know about you, but I do it quite a lot. I'm sitting there just scrolling through. So you need to try and think of getting the shoes of your customer and that each segment to work out what are they going to stop scrolling on and actually look at. A good way too is to begin with a question that demonstrates that you actually understand a problem that your customer is trying to solve. Another approach to sort of cut through. So the thing is, you want to create something that when your target audience reads it, they think that business really understands me. They actually really understand the challenges I'm facing and what I'm trying to achieve. So that's the connection that you want to make with them. And so, beginning with that question, or even thinking up ways, there's a great process called doing it like a customer persona. So it's about creating a profile on who, you might have to do a number of them because you'll have different types of customers, but creating a profile on your sort of common customer, average customer, and working out, okay, what are the barriers stopping them from buying from me? What are the problems that my business can solve for them? And then just have a better understanding of those things. So even presenting a solution to one of those barriers, which could be around, a lot of products, it's around the price or it's around the time, things like that, but providing that solution helps to actually break down that barrier and connect with them. Another great thing, particularly with Facebook and Instagram, that's how Facebook makes its money, because it can target very well in terms of when you run an ad, and you can pinpoint, age, geographical region, preferences and habits and interests and, things like that can actually get your content in front of that audience. However, you need to do both. You need to really craft that ad so it still speaks really well to that audience. And then you need to have that other side where you're targeting the right audience with it. So they both work in combination. But in terms of, it's hard to get organic content in front of people these days, particularly on Facebook and Instagram. But it's mainly if what you're trying to do is to try and boost that organic, if you don't want to do paid ads, is to try and get people to interact with it, because that's when Facebook says, well, people are finding this valuable, I'll show it to more people. So it's trying to kick off that engagement. So it is things like asking questions, getting people to respond in some way that's going to get them to interact with that piece. And yes, so I've covered that already. So looking at ads, and it doesn't have to be super expensive. Some platforms like LinkedIn is very expensive to run ads on, but Facebook and Instagram, it doesn't have to be too expensive to get your stuff in front of the people that you're trying to target. And it's thinking about this process people go through as well around, you know, first of them actually understanding that your business exists. So getting them to understand that, them knowing that, you know, you're there, right through the stages of them then leaving a positive review. So there's different stages people need to go through. Oh, sorry. What a lot of businesses owners do that sort of limits them is that they try and sell at this first point here. So they're trying to sell when people are just finding out who they are. So it's really about sort of guiding them through, first of all, letting them know that you exist and you have something that may help to solve their problem, and letting them know more about who you are and what you do, and then creating something that sort of sparks their interest to build that connection of how you can help them. And then this is where, you know, if you're going to give them some sort of offer to sell, like it should be around here. So they need to go through these stages first to get to here. And then afterwards, it's which I'm sure you do, it's not sort of thinking that relationship is over once they purchase. It's, you know, finding out if it was a positive experience, they liked it, to try and garner their support. And then it's trying to get that repeat business and encouraging that repeat business, and then, you know, getting to the stage where they're telling other people how great you are. So moving them through these stages. So other ways to do that is, I have some other suggestions here. So it's about, you know, offering something for free in exchange for an email address. So it has to be something of value though, because people are still very wary about giving their email addresses out these days because they're inundated with email all the time. But a recent example that this has worked really well for is I do social media for a yoga ashram. And so when COVID-19 hit, one of the yoga teachers there did a yoga nidra, which is sort of like a lying down meditation. So recorded that and gave that for free, but people had to give their email address, so they sent the link. And then he built up an amazing database. He got something like, I think he had about 400 people in about a day and a half signed up for that recording, because they, you know, it was at a time where people just, you know, they were stressed and scared, and it just helped to sort of calm their mind. So it can work, but it has to be for the right audience and of something that they will value. Another way is through social media is like you're an expert in your business. Whatever you're doing, you are an expert in that, and it's coming out and sharing helpful content, just giving broad general advice. What I've found, particularly with analysing social media content and just even in my own practices, is that when you give away, you're not giving away specific advice, customised advice to particular businesses or customers. What you're doing is providing, you know, broad guidelines or broad advice to help, and then people will come to you for that customised advice. So it's sort of, because you're establishing your credibility in what you know, and you're also establishing trust because you're giving that information away. Advertising, particularly on things on Facebook, can actually move people through these stages as well. So there's a great sort of video ad sequence you can do on Facebook where you show a video which might be an awareness type one showing who you are and what you do, and then the people who watch that through or watch a certain amount of that, then they can be shown the next video, and then they sort of work all the way through to this section here where you give them an offer, but it's only to the people who watch those other videos. So you sort of move them through that process. And then, you know, and I've mentioned that as well, just about keeping on building that relationship even after the purchase. So I think we're getting to questions very soon. So
yeah. I've had quite a few questions come through. Thanks.
I can see.
Yeah, and I guess one of them that I focus on, I think was really good, was so we do see a lot of spam and like legitimate but increasing noise online. Do you think there's other helpful ways that we could cut through, I guess, the noise and that sort of thing, or is it just a matter of posting, like you said, to groups or creating your own group online and that sort of thing, and trying to just target the customers that you already have instead of trying to cut through everything else?
I think with like trying to get new people in, I think these days you need, particularly I'd say something like Facebook and Instagram, you will need to pay to target them, unfortunately, just to it's very hard to get that. If you really want to target a specific group, the advertising route is a really recommended way to go. But in terms of reaching new people on other platforms, often it's really about sharing your expertise. So say on LinkedIn, commenting on other people's posts and sharing some of your insight without trying to sell to them, it often draws people to you in that way. So actually being active on other people's sort of pages and in other groups can spark interest and draw people as well. So yeah, so without just trying to push all the time.
Yep. Yeah, great. Thank you. There's some more questions in there as well. Like, how many followers would you need to create a group if you wanted to create a group?
Well, I mean, it's sort of organic, isn't it? I mean, I think you can. I think you should just maybe go after the people or invite people that you already like your page, but you can't actually individually invite them. But what you can is post on the group and invite them to come in. What I think people do, some people do, which I don't agree with, is they send an invitation to all of their friends. And the thing is, not all of your friends will be interested in your business. And sometimes that can die. They might like because of out of sense of feeling of obligation to you, but they may not be the people that you really, are trying to, have as customers, because they're just not the right fit. They're not bad people, of course, they're just not the right fit. And so it's really, if you're going to do that to try and get people in from your actual friend list, make sure that they're relevant. So it's always about relevance, because if you just, it's not about numbers, it's about having the relevant people in there, because it's better to have, say, 10 people who are really connected and into what you're doing, who are interacting with that content because it actually means something to them and helps them, than having, 100 people who do nothing. So it's all about finding that those relevant people.
Okay, great. I've got a really good one here. Would advertising your business through an industry influencer to a large, engaged, industry-related Facebook group be an effective way to promote your business and generate leads?
Yeah, it definitely can be, as long as that person's the right fit. So really do your homework on that person to make sure that they are the right fit for your business, and their audience is the one that you're trying to go after, and do it in a way that isn't really talk about with them how to do it in a way that is helpful to your business and isn't just sort of a blatant shout out. Like working with them to even create a piece of content that helps with that your business is part of, as a way to promote your business. So yeah, so doing it in that way, I think, is really effective. Okay,
great. And what's your advice on building trust when it comes to targeting specific audiences?
Yeah, so I mean, build trust is the most important thing. Like that, honestly, without any trust, there isn't a relationship. So people are not going to buy from you unless they trust you. And trust, really essentially is, people want to feel like they can count on you to deliver what you say, and that you will deliver, consistently. So new audience, it takes a while to build that trust. And that's why sort of creating content that shows that you know your stuff helps to start to build that trust with them, because they start to understand you and what you do and how you can help them. So it does take time. And I mean, social media, it's a long-term relationship management tool. It really is. Like, trying to get people overnight is really difficult, and often they drop off as quickly if something happens that quickly. So it is go for the it's a long game, but trying to build that trust with people, it takes time, but it's so worth it when you get there.
Yeah, I see a few friends of mine who consider themselves as influencers, and sometimes they use that approach where they're like, ask me anything about like pregnancy or something like that, and then they get a lot of comments and that sort of stuff. Would you say that that's a good way to sort of build trust, is getting people to ask you questions about what your expertise is? Maybe?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, a great example of that is there's a marketing agency in Melbourne called Integrity, and they focus on the non-profit market, non-profit sector. And so what they've done every day since COVID hit is it is every day. Every day, I think at 9 a.m, they're on their Instagram doing a live for 10 minutes where nonprofits can come and just ask them questions. And so that's really helped to even, build, they had a good following before, but that just helped to, build that trust, because they're actually spending their time helping their community and the community of customers, who are their customers. So doing stuff like that is really, really useful.
Yeah. Yeah, great. So when you were talking about different funnels and posting to get people through those funnels, there was a lady that was asking, customers will come into funnels at different times. How do you manage this with posts and where they are in the funnel?
Yeah, I guess, it's a really good question. And it's really, it's hard to know like where, because it's sometimes it isn't that linear, it isn't that way. But I guess the main thing is to remember is to think about providing value at each step of the way, and then giving them some hook to go to the next stage. So wherever they come in, so providing value wherever they come in, and then that hook to go to the next stage where, wherever they come. So sometimes people lose them because they either, particularly say in like the awareness phase, if they're not, if they come in, then there's no real value. So it's just making sure that every piece of content that puts them through has that hook and that value to keep going. Because that sort of prompt to go to the next can sometimes be lost, and then you lose them. So,
okay, great.
Oh, and I forgot. And each piece of content in that, like as you're moving people through, it needs to be like self-contained, but then with a hook to go to the next one. So, and that can be quite difficult, but it then helps when anyone's coming in. They can still get a sense of what's going on, but they still want to go further. Sorry.
Cool. And so I guess when you are creating those communication strategies and that sort of thing, is the like free offerings useful when offering different services and that sort of thing? Does it always have to be free, or can it just be, just something else? Like
it could be, yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be free. It could be something to prompt a repeat, maybe like they get a discount on their next purchase, or, something just to keep them sort of coming back for repeat customers. It doesn't always have to be free. It could be a discount. It could be, they could get an added extra. So they could get like a sample or something of something else. So yeah, so it doesn't always have to be a completely free service. It could be, just think about what would they find valuable? What's something that is valuable for them that won't impact your bottom line too much, because you want the value that you give to them to come back to you. That's, the core of business, right? So it's just really thinking that through and how that would work for your business.
Okay, great. And I guess the other thing I wanted to ask is, so you do have your book coming out, which is later in September, is that right?
I think so. Yeah, well, I just sent the final draft off on Saturday night, so that's really exciting. So yeah, so it's called Strategic Social Media Management Theory and Practice. And so it is, I've written it because I'm an academic, but look, I'm a practitioner. So I've written it with practitioners in mind, but it will be used as a uni textbook as well. But my main focus was, people out there who haven't had a lot of experience with social media, or they want to learn more. And the first section of the book is all about strategy development. And then the second section of the book is about content curation. So finding really great content and being able to share that in an ethical way and in a way that's actually going to connect with your target audience. And then the final part of the book is all about content creation. So there's a chapter on writing, there's one on video, graphics and images and photos. And then there's another section on sort of keeping up your skills and how to learn more about social media, great groups to join and things like that.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Sounds really, really interesting. I have actually a question around that as well. Like Helen has asked, will your book be available online or just a hard copy?
No, I think it'll be online. So it's through Palgrave Macmillan. So yeah, I think it'll definitely be an ebook, because there should be, because it's about social media. So it should be online.
Oh, well, as you can see on the screen at the moment, we do have Dr. Karen Sutherland's details, and there was a couple of questions that have just come through now that I might just forward on to Dr. Sutherland after this, and then she may get in touch with you again. But if you do
Absolutely.
have questions or want to connect or follow her, there's all the information online, and we do have that information in our handout available as well. So I'll just start to wrap up the webinar. There is a quick poll that I'd like everybody just to take a moment just to let us know how your experience was with today's webinar, and if you felt that it was useful. It's only a couple of questions, I think about 4, and if you wouldn't mind just popping in your answers, that would be really appreciated, because we do use this information to help tailor content that we're going to create in the future, or our webinars in the future as well. And then while everybody's filling out that poll, I will take a moment to thank Advance Queensland for supporting Queensland businesses through the Innovate Queensland program. As mentioned, we are here to help you further develop, implement, or action any ideas from today's webinar. So you can apply for a free My Innovation Advisor 1-hour consultation with business and innovation experts. And to do that, all you need to do is just visit our website. I'll pop all those links into the chat at the moment, as well as a really, really helpful link for to help support Queensland businesses through the COVID challenge, which is the Advance Queensland COVID Business Support page. So that's all going into the chat right now, as well as I mentioned earlier, the webinar handout, which has all of the links as well as Dr. Karen's information. So I think we've got a lot of people voted by now, so I'll end that poll. Thank you. And sorry, I'll just get you to skip over just to the next slide, please, if that's okay.
All right.
That's okay. Oh, that was the poll one. Yep, just the next one. Thank you. Yep, and that's the information for the free My Innovation Advisor, details about the consultation and how you can actually get in touch with us to apply for that. So thank you, Dr. Karen, for all your time and insights on emerging business issues, tools, and to help us, cut through some of the noise in social media. Really appreciate your time, and yeah, if anybody did want to get in contact with her, I highly recommend you do, because I've had so much fun pulling together this webinar, and it's been such a pleasure having you online. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That's okay. And as I mentioned earlier, there were some questions that came through last minute, so I will forward those through to Dr. Karen so that she can actually answer those.
Great.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. I hope you have a great afternoon. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you online again. Have a nice day. Bye.
Bye.